Last week, I uploaded a video about Yanthina, aka violet snail, also known as the rafting snail. In that video, I mentioned that Velella is the preferred prey of Yanthina. So now, why not talk about Velella while we're at it? Velella is also an interesting topic after all, and I'm pretty sure some people would think Velella looks significantly more interesting than Yanthina. So, let me bring up the question. What exactly is Velella? Velella is a cnidarian. However, what many people misunderstood is Velella is not a jellyfish. Velella is a hydrozoan. In that regard, Velella is closer to a manowar, which is also not a jellyfish of course. While Portuguese manowar is classified in the Siphonophore order, Velella is classified in the Anthoathecata order. Though, if you look at members of Anthoathecata, you would notice that most of those are not similar to Velella. Or perhaps you could say the opposite. Velella is not similar to most members of Anthoathecata. And that's exactly why Velella, together with its closest relative that I'll show later, was classified in their own order, which was Chondrophora. But yeah, nowadays you should see them classified in the Anthoathecata order. They do get their unique family though, which is Porpitidae, named after its closest relative, Porpita, aka the blue button, which I've talked about in its own video by the way. You should check it out if you are interested. Anyway, Velella is a genus name. There is only one species in this genus, which is Velella velella. Pretty easy to remember, isn't it? Velum means sail, and the ella suffix basically means small, so their scientific name means small sail, or little sail, something like that. Their common name is by the wind sailor, but nowadays, I hear people using Velella more often than their supposed common name. Actually, maybe that's because people who would talk about them are mostly zoologists, or at least those who have a considerable amount of zoology knowledge. Or perhaps simply because I'm a zoologist living in a non-English speaking country. Now, I'm wondering whether by the wind sailor is actually used often in English speaking country or not. But anyway, although Velella is not often encountered by the general public, they are actually quite common, in their natural habitat that is. They can be found in all oceans, especially in warm to temperate regions. Most of us would see Velella stranded on the beach. In some regions, you could even see mass stranding of Velella. So yeah, they are not even rare. Even those who claim they've never seen a Velella might actually have seen one, but simply didn't know it's Velella. So, let's talk about their morphology. First of all, I would like to clarify that what seems to be an individual Velella, what you are looking at right now, is actually a colony of polyps. You could technically say each of these tentacle-like thingies are their own individual. However, they are integrated to each other. First, let's look at them as a whole. They are around 7 cm in diameter, so bigger than blue buttons but smaller than manowar. Just like blue buttons, they have a disc-like float, scientifically called pneumatophore. That is the brownish part on the middle, and this part is filled with gas. The perimeter is dark blue, and so far, what I described is quite similar to blue button. What makes them different from blue buttons is the fact that their float is more of an ellipse rather than a circle disc, and the fact that they have this sail on top of their float, which to be fair should be noticeable from the start. This sail is quite stiff, hence even the stranded specimens will have a rack sail. What's quite interesting about their sail is, it doesn't go straight through the middle axis. It is slightly swerved, almost like a cubic line, and it has two types of orientation, left and right. And I kid you not when I say it is actually relevant for their survival. I'll talk about it in the ecology section. Now let's talk about the tentacle-like thingies. Like I said earlier, each of these are individual polyps. I used the term tentacle-like thingies earlier because, first of all, not all of these are tentacles, and second of all, these are different structures. Now is the time I introduce the correct term. The ones on the outer ring are called dactylozoids. These are longer and equipped with nematocysts, the stinger's organelle in cnidarians. And if you haven't guessed it already, these are mainly used to sting. Mostly defensive though. But yeah, you could argue these are their tentacles, if you see the whole colony as a single functional individual that is. Now to the inner side. These polyps are called gonozoid. Some of you could perhaps infer from the name, but yes, these are the ones responsible for reproduction. Sometimes you could see this kind of protrusions from their gonozoids. These are buds, which will become tiny medusae. I'll talk about their life cycle later. Now on to the middle polyp, a singular big polyp called gastrozoid, which is also quite easy to infer. This is basically their mouth. Food will enter through their gastrozoid into their stomach. Though, some articles stated there are some kind of gastrogonozoid hybrids around the central gastrozoid which could also take in food. Oh, by the way, the central mass of the colony is called cenozoar. The cenozoar has canals that connect each polyp. Hence, nutrients and other stuffs could be shared by each polyp. But of course, what we've been looking at is their polyp colony. Like most cnidarians, they have at least two stages of life. The other one is medusa, which I mentioned earlier. When I say their medusae are tiny, I mean actually tiny. Their medusae are typically less than 3 millimeters long, and it looks like a drifting jellyfish bell. They have 4 radial canals instead of the 8 that Porpita have. As they grow and develop, a pair of tentacles will grow. Basically, imagine a tentacle without the eyes. And of course, I'll talk about their life cycle in more detail in the ecology section, which we are about to move on to. But before that, Velella is a neuston, meaning they live at the water surface. In this case, the ocean surface. If you read some articles, you would see the term pleuston when talking about Velella. And if you are wondering, neuston and pleuston is basically interchangeable, so no big deal. Their gaseous pneumatophore keeps them floating. They don't actively move themselves. Winds and waves carry them around. Their stiff sail helps them move further away when getting blown by the wind. On another side though, that's also why they are often stranded. Way more often than blue buttons. But then, they evolved a way to counteract that. Well, to some extent of course. That is, by having two types of sail orientation. The idea is, when a wind blows, half of the population will be blown into one direction, while the other half will be blown into another direction. At times when there is a strong wind that would blow them to the beach and cause them to strand, at least half of the population survive. Not only that though, this also helps them disperse. So yeah, the fact that their sail has different orientation is relevant for their life, not just for cosmetic purposes. But anyway, because of this lifestyle, they don't actively hunt for food. They passively collect food. In their case, it's mostly planktons. That's also why their nematocyst is not that potent. Most of the time, it couldn't even puncture human skin. Hence, they are mostly harmless for us. Though, some reports stated that they could cause irritation to sensitive skin. Like I said earlier, medusae will emerge through budding from their gonozoids. They can produce over 1,000 of medusae per 1 centimeter of float. These medusae are filled with zooxanthellae, which are symbionts in the form of photosynthetic protists. Early medusae don't eat. Their zooxanthellae will provide nutrient for them. Medusae will slowly move deeper, most likely towards the deeper sea, around 600 to 1,000 meters depth. There, female medusae will release eggs, while male medusae will release sperms. After releasing eggs and sperms, these will die soon enough. Fertilized eggs will hatch into a planula larva, which then develop into conaria. Conaria will develop a protofloat and sail, secrete oil droplets, hence making them buoyant. This stage is called rataria, and they will slowly ascend to the surface. This will then develop into the polyp, the one that we often see on the surface or stranded on the beach. Though, I have to say, we don't exactly know much about their life cycle. There are a lot of uncertainties. Velella colonies can be found in a large density at certain places and times, hence why mass strandings are also a thing for them. What's weird is, for some reason, their medusae are rare. We rarely collected their medusae, even though a single polyp colony could produce a lot of them. That's the reason why we think their medusae resides in the deeper water. But that also seems counterintuitive because their zooxanthellae are photosynthetic, which means they are only effective when there is enough light. So yeah, Even though we've known them for centuries, there are still a lot of mysteries surrounding them. But that also means there's a lot of opportunity for research on them, a lot of things to discover. But for now, let's just learn what is known. And that's all for now. Oh, by the way, they are mainly predated by Yantina, which I talked about in last week's video, so check that out. Oh, and also glaucus. Maybe I'll talk about it next year to keep the tradition or something. Anyway, enjoy your day.